So, the viral news is that a young journalist, full of promise, working for Arise TV, has lost her life in Abuja, not because of the bullets of armed robbers, but because the very systems meant to protect and save her failed completely, failed in ways that are shameful, heartbreaking, and enraging. What kind of a country is this? I am angry. I am disappointed. I'm tired. And today, I just want us to talk about how Nigeria finished this young woman. Not the robbers, not the violence, but the failures of our police, our hospitals, and ultimately our government. Let's start with the police. According to reports, it is alleged that when the police arrived at the scene, this young reporter was still alive. She could have been saved. Then guess what? They could not take her to the hospital because their vehicle had no fuel, allegedly. Let me say that again. The Nigerian police, the so-called first line of defense for citizens, could not save a dying young woman because their car tank was empty, like they say, allegedly. I cannot understand this. We have a police force with an annual budget running into billions, yet we are told they cannot fuel their patrol vehicles. How is the police budget spent? Where does the money go? How do we justify a situation where men and women in uniform with guns and badges stand helpless before a bleeding citizen simply because they don't have fuel? How can I, as a Nigerian, ever feel safe when I know that if tragedy strikes, the police may not even have the basic logistics to act? It is shameful. It is also unacceptable. It is proof that in Nigeria, the very institution created to serve and protect has been crippled by corruption, neglect, and mismanagement. But the story of this young woman's painful and unfortunate demise gets even worse and more bizarre. Reports allege that when she was finally taken to Maitama General Hospital, she was refused treatment. Yes, refused treatment. Why should a hospital refuse to treat someone in an emergency? How can doctors and nurses trained to save lives turn away a woman bleeding, fighting for her life? What kind of system allows bureaucracy, negligence, or cold indifference to triumph over compassion and duty? I just cannot wrap my head around this. This is not the first time, and sadly, it will not be the last. In Nigeria, hospitals routinely turn people away because they don't have money upfront or because it is a police case or because of sheer negligence. And yet, we have a government that claims to care for the citizens. If we cannot count on hospitals to save us in our most desperate hour, then what exactly is the role of government? Isn't the primary responsibility of any state to protect the lives of its citizens? How many more must go before we take emergency healthcare seriously? This young woman might have survived, but instead, her life was cut short by a system that values paperwork over people, money over mercy, excuses over action. What happened here is not an isolated event. It is the story of Nigeria today, where failure is normalized, where institutions collapse in broad daylight, where life is cheap and death is avoidable but constant. The police without fear, the hospitals without compassion, the government without accountability. We live in a country where billions are budgeted every year for security, yet insecurity is everywhere. Where trillions are spent on health, yet citizens are left to die in hospital corridors. Where politicians travel abroad for the smallest medical checkup, but the masses must suffer and perish in underfunded hospitals. And I ask myself every day, how much longer will we accept this? How much longer will Nigerians bury their loved ones because of government negligence? How many more promising young lives must we lose before we say enough is enough? I feel personally betrayed and I feel personally insulted because every year I pay taxes directly or indirectly. And every year the government announces massive budgets. Every year we are told that money has been allocated for security, for health, for infrastructure. But where does it all go? Why can't we have police with fuel in their cars? Why can't we have hospitals that save lives without asking questions? Why can't we have a government that values human life? This reporter should still be alive today, but she isn't because Nigeria failed her. And unless we demand answers, unless we hold those in power accountable, tomorrow it could be anyone. This was not just tragic, it was unnecessary. And it is a loud reminder that in Nigeria, our fight is not just against criminals with guns, it is against a broken system that has left its people vulnerable, abandoned, and hopeless. Let us not keep quiet. We must not keep quiet because silence in the face of such failures is complicity. This is not just about one reporter. It is about every Nigerian whose life is cut short because our leaders have failed to build a system that works. Nigeria must do better. And until it does, we must keep speaking. We must keep telling ourselves that silence is no longer an option. See you soon.